She mistook him for the new intern. He let her believe it. Until she walked into his office the next. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. Meet Emma Brooks. She had just started her new job at a high-end tech firm in New York City. Emma wasn't your typical tech industry professional. Her wardrobe consisted of secondhand dresses. Her shoes were scuffed, and she often daydreamed of running her own art studio. But for now, she worked as a receptionist at the firm, answering phones, greeting clients, and, as she would soon learn, making a lot of mistakes. One particular morning, her heart was pounding as she entered the company's bustling lobby. She was nervous her first week, and already, she was trying to navigate through the office in a way that felt more like a maze. The building was gorgeous, with sleek, modern decor, tall windows that let in the warm sun, and a sense of calm efficiency that made Emma feel even more out of place. Table S, she muttered under her breath, scanning the open office floor, her hands trembling slightly as she looked for the man she was supposed to meet. She glanced at a table in the back corner of the room. A tall man sat alone at the table, his sharp suit and dark hair catching her eye. He was hunched over his phone, seemingly engrossed in it, and he looked so out of place amidst the usual hustle and bustle. That must be him, she thought. Her nerves surged. She walked toward him with a practiced smile, trying to shake off the butterflies in her stomach. "Hi! You must be Kevin," she said, her voice a bit higher than usual. The man looked up at her, blinking as if confused. He opened his mouth but then hesitated, an odd look in his eyes. Hi, Emma?" he said, his voice calm, though there was a touch of surprise. Emma, embarrassed but determined to push through the awkwardness, sat down across from him. "Oh, I know this is a little weird," she said nervously, trying to fill the silence. "Blind dates can be so awkward, right?" The man, who had clearly been caught off guard, smiled faintly but didn't correct her. Instead, he let her continue. "Jenny told me you were a bit shy, but I can talk enough for both of us," Emma continued, her hands fidgeting in her lap. She was just trying to fill the silence. He let out a small chuckle, clearly unsure of how to respond. "Yeah, blind dates. Something else," he said, a slight smile playing at the corners of his lips. Emma, seeing his uncertainty as shyness, decided to press on with the conversation. She talked about her life as a waitress, the struggle of paying her bills, and her dream of one day opening her own art studio. As she spoke, she found herself laughing more than she had in weeks. The man, who had initially seemed so aloof, was now engaging in the conversation, smiling, laughing even. "You're not what I expected," she said, her voice thoughtful. He raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued by her comment. "What do you mean?" he asked. "Well, Jenny said you were quiet," she explained, her cheeks flushing slightly. "But you're actually easy to talk to," he laughed softly. "You're easy to talk to as well, Emma." She beamed at the compliment. They continued chatting, the conversation flowing effortlessly. But then, just as things seemed to be going well, Emma's phone buzzed. She glanced at the message. "Hey Emma, where are you? I'm at table 7, looking forward to meeting you. Kevin." Her heart sank. She looked up at the man, her face turning bright red. "You're not Kevin, are you?" she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. The man's smile faltered, and for a moment, guilt flashed across his face. "No, I'm not," he admitted, clearly conflicted. Emma's stomach churned. She stood up quickly, her face flushed with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry. I sat at the wrong table," she stammered. Without waiting for a response, she grabbed her coat and bolted out of the restaurant, her face on fire. The man, Liam Parker, stood up as well, his expression one of regret, watching her run out the door. But strangely, he couldn't help but feel something else, curiosity. Why had he let her believe he was Kevin? And why did it bother him so much that she'd run out without giving him a chance to explain? He was about to go back to his seat when something stopped him a thought. What if he never saw her again? What if he couldn't get the chance to explain? The next morning, Emma could barely shake off the embarrassment from the night before. She had spent the entire evening replaying the awkward moment in her head. How could she have mistaken him for Kevin? Why didn't he correct her sooner? What was worse, she hadn't even gotten his real name. She was sitting in her tiny apartment, a cup of lukewarm coffee in her hands, staring at the floor, lost in thought. She had just started at this job, and it felt like she was already messing things up. The weight of her student loans, her dream of opening an art studio slipping further away with each passing day, made it hard to focus on anything else. But one thought stuck with her: Liam, the man from the restaurant. Despite the awkwardness, he had been genuinely kind. And that smile, that small laugh, it was so real. Not like the polished, corporate personalities she was used to seeing in the office. But what were the chances that she would run into him again? She pushed the thought aside and tried to focus on the day ahead. She was late for work as usual. When she finally arrived at the office, the familiar hum of the busy building greeted her. She walked past the receptionist's desk, trying to avoid any further embarrassment, when she spotted a familiar face walking toward her. Liam. He was wearing a sleek navy suit, his hair perfectly styled, and there was no mistaking it now. He was the CEO. He gave her a quick nod, but instead of walking past her, he stopped and smiled. "Emma, right?" he asked, his voice smooth and confident. Emma froze for a second, her stomach doing flips. This was not how she imagined their second meeting. "Yes, it's me," she replied, her voice shaky. "I'm sorry about last night." She took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. "I thought you were someone else." He chuckled lightly, the smile never leaving his face. "It's all right. I actually didn't correct you. I figured it would be an interesting test of sorts." "A test?" Emma blinked, confused. "A test?" she repeated, her eyebrows knitting together. "Yes," he said, his expression still warm but with a hint of amusement. "I wanted to see how genuine the conversation would be without the pretense of who I really am." He paused for a moment, his eyes locking onto hers. "And you were honest. I liked that." Emma's heart raced. The man she had mistaken for a humble intern was, in fact, the CEO of the company she was working for. She couldn't decide whether to feel relieved or more embarrassed. Liam gave a small shrug, clearly noticing her discomfort. "Don't worry, I wasn't trying to embarrass you. I just wanted to see who you really were without any expectations." Emma tried to swallow the lump in her throat. She had no idea how to respond to that. "Well, I guess I should have been more careful about where I sat," she said with a nervous laugh, hoping to lighten the mood. Liam smiled again, but this time there was something different in his gaze. It was almost as if he was studying her. "It was a mistake, sure," he said. "But sometimes mistakes can lead to interesting things. Don't you think?" She didn't know how to answer. All she could do was nod, still in disbelief. How was she supposed to handle this now? Was he expecting something from her? Or was this just his way of being? Polite? Before she could say anything else, Liam's assistant came up to them, pulling his attention away. "Mr. Parker, the meeting is about to start," she said, looking between them. "Ah, yes. Thank you, Claire," he replied, his tone shifting back to business. He turned back to Emma and gave her a polite nod. "I'll see you around, Emma." With that, he walked away, leaving Emma standing in the hallway, still trying to process the whirlwind of emotions she felt. She had just met the CEO, and instead of feeling intimidated, she felt something else: curiosity. What was his real interest in her? And why did he test her like that? She couldn't help but wonder if their paths were meant to cross in a way she never expected. As the day went on, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that her life at this company was about to take a much more complicated turn. But for now, all she could do was focus on getting through the day, trying to push aside the growing intrigue she felt toward Liam Parker. That night, she sat in her apartment, scrolling through her phone, unable to focus on anything. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. It was an email from her manager, asking her to attend a charity gala in a few days, with the subject line, "Important Event, Gala Attendance." Emma stared at the screen. She had heard about the event. It was a high-profile occasion, and she knew everyone at the company would be there. But what caught her attention was the line at the bottom of the email, "Guest of Honor, Liam Parker." Her stomach churned again. She had no idea how to act when she saw him next. Was she supposed to be casual, or should she keep her distance? The uncertainty was eating at her. As the days passed and the gala approached, Emma could feel a strange sense of anticipation building inside her. It wasn't just the excitement of the event, it was the thought of Liam. And no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't stop thinking about the man who had tested her without her even knowing it. The day of the gala arrived faster than Emma had anticipated. She had spent the last few days trying to prepare herself, not just for the high-profile event, but for what was undoubtedly going to be an awkward encounter with Liam. Her mind was racing with thoughts of how to act when she saw him again. Should she pretend that everything was normal, like the misunderstanding never happened? Or should she confront him and ask why he had tested her like that? The whole situation felt like a whirlwind, and Emma was struggling to keep up with the pace. She stood in front of her mirror, adjusting her dress for the 5th time, trying to look like she belonged. The dress was simple but elegant, something she had found at a second-hand shop, but it fit her perfectly. Still, the thought of walking into a room full of powerful people made her feel out of place. She couldn't help but feel like an imposter in this world of high-end luxury. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. "You've got this," she muttered to herself. "Just go in, do your job, and get out." As she made her way to the event, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't yet understand. The gala was being held at one of the most exclusive venues in the city, a place Emma had only ever seen in magazines or on TV. The glittering lights, the elegant decorations, and the sea of expensive suits and gowns made her feel like she had stepped into another world. She arrived a little early, hoping to ease into the crowd before the event got fully underway. As she walked through the grand entrance, she was immediately greeted by her manager, who handed her a name tag and ushered her into the main hall. She tried to stay calm, but her nerves were getting the better of her. She found a quiet corner to gather herself and take a few deep breaths. And then, as if on cue, she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Emma." She froze, her heart skipping a beat. She turned around to find Liam standing there, looking as polished and composed as ever. He was dressed in a sleek black tuxedo, his dark hair styled perfectly, and his presence seemed to command the room. He smiled at her, and for a moment, Emma forgot how to speak. "You look stunning," Liam said, his voice low and sincere. Emma felt her cheeks flush. "Thank you," she managed to say, trying to hide her surprise. She had not expected him to approach her so directly, but what really caught her off guard was the way he was looking at her, as though there was something more behind his words than just politeness. Liam didn't wait for her to say anything else. He extended his arm toward her and smiled. "Shall we?" Emma hesitated for just a second, still unsure of how to act. She had no idea what Liam's intentions were, but there was something about him that made her feel drawn to him, something that made her feel like maybe, just maybe, this wasn't all just a test. She took a deep breath and placed her hand on his arm, allowing him to lead her through the crowd. As they moved through the sea of people, Emma couldn't help but notice how everyone around them seemed to part, giving Liam space. It was clear he was a man of great influence. "How are you finding the gala so far?" he asked, his voice warm but casual. "It's overwhelming," Emma admitted, feeling like a fish out of water. "I've never been to something like this," Liam chuckled softly. "I can imagine. But you're doing just fine." They continued walking, talking about the event and their lives outside of work. For the first time since she had met him, Emma felt like she was talking to a real person, not just the intimidating CEO she had imagined. And yet, there was still something in the back of her mind, something that kept nagging her about their earlier encounter. She couldn't let it go. Why had he let her believe he was just an intern? Why did he test her like that? As if reading her mind, Liam stopped in front of a large painting on the wall and turned to her. "I'm glad you came," he said, his tone shifting slightly. "I wasn't sure if I would see you here after everything that happened." Emma looked up at him, her curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" she asked. Liam looked at her for a long moment, as if weighing his words carefully. "I know it might have seemed a little strange, the way I handled our first meeting," he said slowly. "But I wanted to know what kind of person you really were, without the influence of my title or position." Emma was taken aback. She had known there was something different about him, but hearing him say it out loud made her realize just how much she had underestimated him. She opened her mouth to say something, but before she could, Liam added, I hope you don't mind me doing that. I wasn't trying to deceive you, just to understand you better. Emma felt a knot form in her stomach. She wasn't sure what to think of it all. I don't know what to say, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't expect this. Liam smiled again, and this time it wasn't just a polite smile. There was something deeper in it, something genuine. Don't worry, he said, his voice reassuring. I don't expect you to have it all figured out, but I do hope we can start over, with no more tests. Emma's heart skipped a beat. Start over? She repeated. Liam nodded, his gaze softening. Yes, I'd like that. Emma wasn't sure what to say next. She could feel her heart racing, and for the first time, she wasn't sure if it was from nerves or something else. All she knew was that she was standing in front of Liam Parker, the man who had tested her, and for reasons she couldn't quite understand, she was starting to believe that maybe this wasn't all just a game. As the evening continued, Emma found herself walking beside Liam, their conversation flowing easily. She was still processing everything he had said, still unsure of what to make of this sudden shift in their dynamic. Just moments ago, she had been a nervous mess, overwhelmed by the high-class environment and the pressure of being surrounded by successful, influential people. Now, with Liam by her side, it felt like she was walking through the crowd with a sense of purpose. He had an aura about him, something commanding, but also oddly comforting. His presence made her feel as though she belonged here, even though she had no idea how or why. As they moved through the gala, people couldn't help but notice them. There was something undeniable about their connection. Liam's attention was entirely focused on Emma, and though he was the CEO, he treated her like she was the most important person in the room. It made her heart race, and she couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and confusion. She had never expected any of this. I'm glad you came tonight, Liam said again, his voice soft but firm. I wasn't sure if you'd show up after everything. Emma looked at him, her curiosity piqued once more. Why wouldn't I come? She asked, her voice light, though she was still trying to understand the situation. Liam gave her a small smile, one that didn't quite reach his eyes. After what happened last time, I wasn't sure how you would feel about seeing me again. I wanted to be honest with you, but I also didn't want to make you uncomfortable. Emma tilted her head, her eyes searching his face. I think I understand, she said slowly, but this still feels a little surreal. Liam's smile softened, and he nodded in understanding. I get it. It's a lot to process, especially when things started off so oddly. But I want you to know that I value your honesty. That's something rare in this world. Emma felt her chest tighten slightly. She hadn't expected him to say that. She had been so wrapped up in her own insecurities, her own struggles, that she hadn't even considered what Liam might be thinking. I didn't expect any of this, she admitted, looking down at the glass of wine in her hand. I didn't expect to meet someone like you, let alone be standing here with you, talking like we're equals. Liam's eyes softened as he watched her. You are my equal, Emma. Don't let anyone, not even me, make you feel otherwise. His words sent a shiver down her spine. She had never felt so seen, so understood, and yet so completely out of her depth. You don't have to say that, she replied, almost in disbelief. I'm just a receptionist. I'm not even close to your level. He shook his head, his voice firm. That doesn't matter. Titles and positions don't mean a thing when it comes to how we treat each other. You've proven that to me. Emma swallowed hard, trying to hold back the emotions that threatened to overwhelm her. She had never been this open with someone before, especially not with someone so powerful, someone who could have any person in the room. I'm just trying to figure out where I belong, she said softly. I never expected to be here, to be talking to you like this. You belong exactly where you are, Liam said. His tone gentle but with a strength that made Emma feel as though everything would be okay. We all have our own paths to walk, and sometimes they lead us to unexpected places. Emma smiled, though it was a bittersweet smile. I guess I'm starting to believe that. The evening wore on, and Emma found herself drawn into the flow of the gala, her nerves slowly dissipating as she spent more time with Liam. As the night went on, the crowd began to thin, and Liam suggested they take a walk outside to get some fresh air. The cool evening breeze felt refreshing against her skin as they strolled through the quiet courtyard, away from the noise of the event. The city lights twinkled in the distance, and for a moment, Emma felt like she was in a dream. "I'm glad we could talk like this," Liam said, his voice low, almost as if he was hesitant to break the calm of the moment. "I've been wanting to get to know you better, Emma. You're different from anyone I've met." Emma glanced at him, surprised by his words. She had always felt like the odd one out, like she didn't belong in this world of wealth and power. But with Liam, it was as if none of that mattered. "I'm not sure what this means," she said quietly. "I didn't expect to feel so connected to you." Liam stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression serious but tender. "I think we're both figuring this out as we go," he said, his voice steady, "but I want to give it a chance. I don't want to leave this moment wondering what could have been." Emma's heart skipped a beat, her breath catching in her throat. She had never felt so exposed, so vulnerable, yet in that moment, it felt right. She had no idea where this would go, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid to find out. The next few days after the gala felt like a whirlwind for Emma. She couldn't quite shake off the feeling of the quiet conversation she had shared with Liam in the courtyard, and as much as she tried to focus on her work, her thoughts kept drifting back to him. She found herself replaying their words in her head, wondering if it was all real, or if she had just imagined the connection they seemed to have. The more she thought about it, the more it felt like something had shifted within her, like she was beginning to understand what it meant to truly be seen and valued. Liam had never treated her like just another employee, just another face in the crowd. He made her feel like she mattered, like her thoughts and her presence were important, and it scared her. She had always kept her guard up, afraid of opening up to people who could potentially hurt her, people who saw her as less than. But Liam, he was different. She had no idea what he wanted from her, but for the first time, she didn't feel the need to put on a facade. She could be herself. After a few days of working together, Liam invited Emma to another dinner. This time, it wasn't a corporate event. It wasn't a gala, it was just the two of them, going out for a casual dinner to talk. When Emma arrived at the restaurant, she was nervous but excited. The place was a little more relaxed than the gala, but still upscale. As she sat at the table, she noticed Liam seemed a little more at ease than he had been the night of the event. His posture was more relaxed, his smile genuine, and it made her feel like maybe, just maybe, they could have something real. "I'm glad you came," Liam said as they both settled into their seats. "I know I've been busy with work and the company, but I wanted to make time for this, for us." Emma smiled softly. "I'm glad you did, too." The conversation flowed easily, much like the first time they had met. They talked about their lives, their passions, and their hopes for the future. For once, Emma didn't feel like she was pretending to be something she wasn't. She shared her dream of opening an art studio, of creating a space where people could connect through their creativity, and she could feel Liam listening intently, truly interested in what she had to say. "You're really passionate about this," Liam observed, his voice warm. "I think that's something special, Emma. Not everyone has the courage to follow their dreams." She looked down, feeling the weight of his words. "I've been working on it for so long, but sometimes it feels like it's too far away, like it's never going to happen." Liam leaned forward slightly, his eyes locking onto hers. "I don't think you should give up on it. You have something valuable to offer the world. Don't let fear stop you from pursuing it." Emma felt a lump form in her throat, and she quickly looked away, trying to hide the tears that threatened to surface. She hadn't realized just how much she needed to hear those words until now. It wasn't just Liam's belief in her that moved her, it was his sincerity, his understanding of what it meant to work hard for something you truly cared about. She took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. "Thank you, Liam," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "That means a lot to me." Liam smiled gently, and for a moment the world outside the restaurant seemed to fade away. It was just the two of them, sitting there, sharing this quiet moment of connection. After a few seconds, Liam cleared his throat, as if something was on his mind. "You know, I wasn't always the person you see now. I didn't start out with everything I have," he said, his voice thoughtful. Emma looked at him, intrigued. "What do you mean?" she asked. He paused for a moment, as if gathering his thoughts. "I came from nothing, Emma. My family didn't have money, and I had to work for everything I have now. But it wasn't just the money, it was the drive, the hunger to succeed. I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I've learned a lot too. I didn't always know what I wanted, but I knew I had to keep going, keep pushing forward. Emma listened carefully, her heart going out to him. She had always known that people didn't just become successful without effort, but hearing Liam's story made her see him in a new light. He wasn't just a rich CEO. He was a person who had fought for everything he had, and that made her feel like maybe she could fight for her dreams too. I admire that, Emma said softly, meeting his gaze. I think I've been too scared to really go after what I want. I've been playing it safe. Liam nodded, understanding. It's easier to play it safe, but sometimes you have to take risks to make the life you want. Emma thought about his words, letting them sink in. She wasn't sure where this would all lead, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she could take a chance. She wasn't alone anymore. She had someone who believed in her, someone who saw her potential, and maybe, just maybe, she could believe in herself, too. After dinner, they walked out of the restaurant together, the cool night air brushing against their faces. As they reached the street corner, Liam turned to her, his expression serious. Emma, I know this might seem fast, but I want to be honest with you. I'm not just looking for someone to work with, or to be around for a little while. I'm looking for something real, something that could last. Emma's heart skipped a beat, and she felt a flutter in her chest. She wasn't sure what to say, but deep down, she knew that this was the beginning of something new, something that could change both of their lives. Emma felt her heart race as Liam's words sank in. He wasn't just talking about a business partnership or a fleeting connection. He was talking about something real, something lasting. She had never expected this. She had never expected to feel this way about someone like him, someone who seemed so far removed from her world. But the more she spent time with him, the more she saw that Liam was just a person, like her, someone who had dreams, fears, and a past that shaped him. And the more she learned about him, the more she realized she wanted to take this chance. She wasn't sure where this would lead, but in that moment, she was willing to find out. Liam, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know what this is, but I think I'm ready to see where it goes. His eyes softened at her words, and a small smile tugged at the corner of his lips. I'm glad to hear that, Emma. I feel the same way. The night air was cool against her skin as they stood there, just a few feet apart. But it felt like the world had narrowed down to just the two of them. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Emma wasn't sure what to say next, but the silence wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like they were both taking the time to process what was happening between them. The uncertainty, the confusion, and the excitement, it was all overwhelming, but in the best way possible. As they stood there, Liam reached out and gently took her hand in his. Emma looked up at him, surprised but not resisting. His touch was warm, reassuring, and it made her feel like she was exactly where she needed to be. I know this might be fast, Liam said, his voice steady. But I want you to know that I'm in this. I'm not going anywhere. Emma felt her pulse quicken. She didn't know what it was about his words, but they felt so genuine, so sincere. It was like he was telling her that, despite everything that had happened, he was willing to take a chance on them, on her. I'm not going anywhere either, she replied, her voice growing stronger with each word. I think we both deserve to see where this goes. Liam's smile widened, and for a moment, it felt like the whole world was aligned in their favor. There was still so much uncertainty, so many unknowns. But in that moment, they both knew that they were taking the first step towards something that could be beautiful. They continued to walk together, hand in hand, down the quiet street. The noise of the city faded into the background, and for once, Emma didn't feel out of place. She felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. As they approached the corner of the street, Liam stopped and turned to face her, his expression thoughtful. I want to take you somewhere, he said, his voice gentle but determined. Somewhere special. Emma's curiosity piqued. Where? She asked, wondering what he had in mind. It's a surprise, Liam replied with a wink. Trust me, you'll like it. Emma laughed softly, the tension from earlier melting away. Okay, I'll bite. Lead the way. Liam grinned and took her hand again, guiding her down the street toward a place she had never been before. They walked for a few more minutes, and as they turned a corner, Emma was taken aback by what she saw. It was a small art gallery, tucked away between two tall buildings. The warm glow of the lights spilling out from the windows made it look inviting and intimate. Emma felt a spark of excitement in her chest. She had always loved art, always dreamed of owning a gallery of her own one day, and here they were, standing in front of one. "I thought you might like it," Liam said, his voice soft. "I know how much art means to you." Emma's heart swelled with emotion. She had no idea how Liam had known about her dream, but somehow it felt like he had been paying attention. He had noticed the little things about her, the things she had never spoken out loud, and he had remembered. "How did you know?" she asked, her voice thick with gratitude. Liam shrugged, a playful smile on his lips. "Let's just say I've been paying attention." Emma laughed, feeling a warmth spread through her. She was starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, she had found something real, something worth holding on to. They stepped inside the gallery, and Emma was immediately struck by the beauty of the pieces on display. It wasn't a huge gallery, but the collection was breathtaking. There were paintings, sculptures, and photographs, each piece telling its own story, each one filled with emotion and depth. As they walked through the gallery, Liam took a step closer to her. "I know this isn't exactly a typical first date," he said, his voice low, "but I wanted to share this with you. I want you to know who I am, Emma." She turned to him, her eyes searching his face. "And who are you, Liam?" she asked softly. He smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "I'm just a man who's trying to figure out his own life, just like you. But I know this sometimes. The best things in life happen when you least expect them." Emma felt her heart flutter in her chest as she looked at him. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure. Whatever it was, she wanted to find out with Liam by her side. As the days passed, Emma and Liam's connection grew stronger. They spent more time together, getting to know each other beyond the work environment. What started as a tentative friendship had quickly blossomed into something more, something neither of them had anticipated. Emma found herself looking forward to their conversations, to their quiet moments together, and even to the small gestures that made her feel seen, like when Liam noticed she was wearing a new pair of shoes and complimented her on them, or when he surprised her with a coffee from her favorite café. It was the little things that made her heart swell, the things that made her feel special in ways she hadn't experienced before. But with every passing day, Emma also felt a growing fear in the back of her mind. What if this was just a temporary phase? What if Liam was just being kind because of his position, because he wanted to prove something to himself, or to her? She had seen men like him before, powerful, charming, and full of promises. But none of those men had ever been this genuine, this attentive. None of them had ever made her feel like she was the most important person in the room. Despite the comfort Liam's presence brought her, Emma couldn't shake the fear of being hurt, of being let down once again. She had built walls around herself for a reason, and every time she allowed someone in, it seemed like they eventually found a way to leave. She tried to push these thoughts away as best as she could. Liam was different, she told herself. But even with her heart telling her to trust him, her mind kept questioning it all. That evening, Emma stood in front of her bathroom mirror, fixing her hair for yet another dinner date with Liam. She smiled at her reflection, trying to calm the anxiety bubbling inside her. She was excited to see him again, but a small voice in her head kept whispering doubts. Could this really be real? Could someone like her, someone who had struggled so long, really be part of this world with a man like Liam? She pushed the thoughts aside. "Don't overthink it," she reminded herself. "Just go and enjoy the moment. Whatever happens, happens." She arrived at the restaurant a little early, as always, needing those few extra minutes to steady her nerves. The restaurant was one of Liam's favorites, a quiet, upscale place with dim lighting and a warm, intimate ambiance. When Liam arrived, he greeted her with a warm smile, his eyes lighting up when he saw her. "You look stunning, Emma," he said, and she felt her heart flutter. She smiled back, feeling the familiar warmth spread through her. "Thank you. You look great, too." They shared a few more pleasantries, but it wasn't long before they settled into a comfortable silence, the kind that felt natural between two people who had become more than just acquaintances. The evening went by in a blur of laughter, easy conversation, and moments of shared connection. They talked about their childhoods, their hopes for the future, and the things they had learned along the way. But as the evening wore on, Emma felt her anxiety creeping back in. She couldn't help but wonder what Liam's true feelings were. Did he really care for her? Or was she just another person in his life, someone to pass the time with until something better came along? "Liam, I have to ask," she said, her voice suddenly serious. "What is it you really want from this?" "From me?" Liam looked at her, his expression softening. He took a moment before answering, as though choosing his words carefully. "I want to be with you, Emma," he said, his voice steady and sincere. "I don't have all the answers, but I do know this. I care about you, and I want to see where this goes. I'm not just looking for a fling or a distraction. I'm looking for something real." Emma felt a lump form in her throat. His words were exactly what she had been longing to hear, but at the same time, they filled her with uncertainty. Was he really being genuine, or was he just saying what she wanted to hear? She looked down at her hands, trying to process everything. "I just don't want to be hurt again," she admitted quietly. "I've been let down too many times." Liam reached across the table, his hand gently covering hers. "I understand," he said softly. "And I promise, Emma, I'm not going anywhere. I want to build something real with you. I'm not rushing you, but I just want you to know that I'm in this, for the long haul." Emma looked up at him, meeting his gaze. There was no doubt in his eyes, no hesitation in his voice. He was serious, and that made her heart flutter with hope. "Okay," she whispered, squeezing his hand. "Let's see where this goes." From that moment, everything felt different. The weight of the uncertainty that had been hanging over her for so long seemed to lift, replaced by a sense of hope and excitement for the future. Emma didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in a long time, she was willing to take a chance. She was ready to see where this journey with Liam would lead, and maybe, just maybe, it would be the real thing. Days turned into weeks, and Emma found herself settling into a new rhythm. She and Liam grew closer with each passing day, their bond deepening in ways that neither of them had expected. Their relationship wasn't without its challenges, of course. Emma had moments when her doubts resurfaced, moments when she feared that the life she had dreamed of would slip through her fingers, or worse, that she would wake up one day and find herself alone again. But every time those fears crept in, Liam was there, steady and reassuring, reminding her that she wasn't alone in this. He showed up for her in ways that made her believe that maybe, just maybe, this was real. One evening, as they sat in a small park near her apartment, enjoying the peace of the city around them, Emma found herself lost in thought. Liam had been telling her about a new project he was working on, something that would take his company in a bold new direction. But her mind wasn't fully in the conversation. It was something he had said earlier that day that kept playing on her mind. "You're not like the others," he had told her, his voice quiet, but his words striking her deeply. "I've been around people my whole life who only care about what I can do for them. But you see me, not my title. That's something rare." Emma wasn't sure how to respond at first, but now, sitting next to him, those words kept echoing in her mind. What did it mean to see someone, truly see them, beyond all the surface layers? And why did it feel like such an impossible thing to believe that she, a girl from a small town with big dreams, could be the one to do that for Liam? He had everything, after all the success, the wealth, the power. Yet, somehow, Emma felt that maybe, just maybe, he had been searching for something more, something real. She glanced over at him, watching the way the light from the street lamps played on his features. There was a gentleness in his expression now, a warmth that she had come to recognize as his true self. He wasn't the cold, distant CEO he often portrayed at work. With her, he was different, vulnerable, open, and caring in a way that made her feel safe, cherished. "Liam?" she said softly, breaking the comfortable silence. He looked at her, his eyes warm with attention. "Yeah?" he asked, his voice calm. Emma hesitated for a moment, unsure if she should say what was on her mind. But then, looking into his eyes, she realized there was no need to hold back. "I think I understand now," she said quietly. "What you meant, about seeing you." He smiled, but there was a hint of curiosity in his expression. "What do you mean?" Emma took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "I used to think that people only saw what they wanted to see, you know? They see the title, the money, the success, and they base everything on that. But with you, I see something else. I see the man behind the title, the man who's been through so much to get to where he is. And I see how hard it must be to trust anyone. Liam's gaze softened as she spoke, and he reached out, gently taking her hand in his. It's not always easy, he admitted, but with you it feels different. Like I don't have to keep up the facade. I don't have to be the CEO all the time. Emma squeezed his hand, feeling a lump form in her throat. She had never imagined that someone like him, someone so powerful, so put together, could feel the way she did about her own struggles. It made her feel less alone, less afraid of her own insecurities. I don't know what this is yet, Emma continued, but I want to try. I want to see where this goes, without any fear, without any walls between us. Liam looked at her for a long moment, and when he spoke, his voice was low and filled with emotion. I want that too, Emma. I want to see where this goes with you. I don't know what the future holds, but I know this, whatever happens, I don't want to lose what we have. The sincerity in his voice, the honesty in his eyes, made her heart race. She had never felt more certain about anything in her life. She had been afraid for so long, afraid of getting hurt, of falling for someone who wouldn't see her for who she truly was. But with Liam, she felt like she could be herself, no masks, no pretenses. Just two people, trying to figure it out together. As they sat there, hand in hand, under the dim lights of the park, Emma realized that maybe she didn't need to have everything figured out right away. Maybe life wasn't about having all the answers, but about being open to the journey, open to the possibility of something beautiful, even if it didn't fit into the neat little box she had once imagined. Liam had shown her that there was more to life than the fear of being let down. There was hope, there was trust, and there was love. Slowly, they stood up, still holding hands, and began walking back toward her apartment. The night was quiet, but the world felt full of possibilities. For the first time, Emma felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be, walking into the unknown with someone who cared about her. And maybe that was all she needed to take the next step, and let life unfold as it was meant to. The weeks that followed were a blur of new beginnings and quiet moments of happiness. Emma and Liam's relationship continued to grow stronger, not in the dramatic, whirlwind way that she had once imagined, but in small, meaningful ways that added up over time. They spent countless evenings together, talking about everything and nothing, enjoying each other's company in the most ordinary yet extraordinary way. Emma found herself laughing more than she had in years, her worries slowly melting away as she realized that maybe, just maybe, she was allowed to be happy. One night, as they walked through the city, the cool breeze brushing against their faces, Liam stopped suddenly and turned to her. Emma, he said, his voice soft but firm. I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything we've shared. Emma looked up at him, her heart skipping a beat. What do you mean? She asked, her voice a little hesitant. Liam took a deep breath, his expression serious but filled with warmth. I've never felt this way about anyone before. What we have, it's real. And I want to be with you. I want you in my life. For the long haul. Emma's heart raced as she processed his words. She had never expected this, never thought that someone like Liam, with everything he had, would feel so strongly about her. It was overwhelming, but in the best way possible. Liam, she began, but her voice trailed off as emotion surged within her. She was overwhelmed, not with doubt, but with a deep sense of connection and love. He smiled gently, cutting her off before she could finish. I know this is a lot, and I don't want to rush you into anything. But I wanted to tell you, to be honest with you, that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. And I want to give you something that shows how much I mean what I'm saying. Emma's breath caught in her throat as Liam reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small, elegant box, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. With a smile, he opened the box, revealing a beautiful ring, simple yet stunning. Will you marry me, Emma? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper, filled with sincerity. Emma's heart swelled as she stared at the ring, her emotions rising in waves. She never thought she would be here, standing in the city, holding the hand of the man who had shown her so much love and care. She had always feared the idea of commitment, had always kept her heart guarded. But with Liam, everything felt right. She felt safe, cherished, and loved in a way she had never imagined. The question hung in the air, but Emma didn't need more time to think. She knew the answer. "Yes," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." Liam's face lit up, his eyes filled with joy and relief. He took the ring from the box and gently slipped it onto her finger, his hands shaking slightly with excitement. Emma couldn't help but smile as she looked at the beautiful piece of jewelry, knowing that it wasn't just a symbol of their love, it was a promise. A promise that no matter what the future held, they would face it together. As Liam pulled her into a tight embrace, the world around them seemed to fade away. It was just the two of them, standing in the middle of the city, with their future ahead of them. Emma's heart was full. Knowing that she had found something truly special, she had found love when she least expected it, and in Liam, she had found not just a partner, but someone who would support her dreams, who would stand by her through the ups and downs of life. They walked back to her apartment, hand in hand. And as they reached the door, Liam stopped and turned to her. "I can't wait for what's to come," he said, his voice filled with excitement and warmth. "I'm ready for this, Emma, ready to build a life with you." Emma smiled, her heart overflowing with love. "Me too," she said softly. "Me too." They kissed then, and in that moment, Emma knew that her life had changed forever. She had found her person, the one who truly saw her, who loved her for who she was, and she couldn't wait to see what the future held for them. As they stepped inside, Emma felt a sense of peace, knowing that they had both taken that leap of faith together. The future was uncertain, but she was no longer afraid of it. With Liam by her side, she was ready for anything. Together, they would create a life full of love, laughter, and dreams fulfilled, knowing that no matter where the road took them, they would face it hand in hand.